So the problem is, when you're designing your life, you're designing a thing called the future. None of us have been there yet. We might want to get you more than to Friday, or to next Friday. I think we might go a week. When we actually do a planning exercise in our classes, we run 3 5-year plans, because all of us can be more than one lived experience in the world. We say there's more aliveness in each of us than one lifetime permits us to live. So there's more than one of you in there. And there's more than one right answer to you. There's not a single right answer to you. In the world at large right now, the technological engineering mindset has sort of begun to mislead people to believe there's an optimal solution. There's got to be a way to do this right. Is sort of a tempting thing to want to believe. But there are a lot of questions to which there are not right answers, only a series of potentially good answers. And by the way, you'll never even know if you had the best answer because you only lived one of them. And so what we're trying to do is give people the tools to live into the empirical process of iterating their lives forward. Life is a lived experience, not an analytical experience. You can't know the future, you can build the future.
You can still have a plan. I mean, you can still say, hey, I'm in Berkeley and I want to major in political science or mathematics or history or whatever.
And have an aspirational mission. I want to see X, I want to see the end of food injustice in the urban centers of the top 15 cities in the US by 2050. That's fine.
But what happened, what the data tells us is that about 7 to 10 years out of school, only 20% of the people are doing anything that had anything to do with what they majored in. So we like to talk about these, what we call dysfunctional beliefs that sort of hold you back. Like, whatever I major in, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Well, 20% of you, that's true. And 80% of you are going to take that thing and then build on it and do something else. It doesn't mean you majored in the wrong thing. It just means then you did that for a little while and then you decided, hey, maybe I'll get an MBA. Because really the way that I want to have impact is through marketing or through business. Or maybe I'll go into a nonprofit, and because that's where I see myself now as having impact. So we like these little 5-year plans, but we like to have 3 of them because you want to be flexible. The world can throw you a curveball, right? I mean, not everything goes the way it's supposed to. And then we like to give people tools so that, the data says you're going to have 3 different careers. The data says it's not going to be based on your major. The data says, that this I see a lot of people, look like they're in school here at Berkeley. You're probably going to live to be 100. You're going to work for 70 of those years. I'm pretty sure it won't be the same job all 70 years. So,
how many of you hope you can't talk about what you're doing 20 years from now because it doesn't exist yet? You want to work on stuff that doesn't, you want to work on the cool thing.
Yeah. I mean, Dave and I have seen whole portions of our industry just disappear. When I got out of school, one of the jobs you could have with my training was as what was called an engineering draftsman. You drew up the drawings of what was going to be made.
On paper.
On paper.
With a pencil.
Actually with
in your hand.
Actually with
like this.
With an ink pen, so you couldn't
or a
make a
rapidograph
mistake.
pen,
And that's all. Just computers do that now. That's just gone. And nobody even knows what a draftsman is.
Right.
So you want to have a set of tools that are flexible, because the world's going to change, and you want to be able to change into. You want to be able to grow into the next thing that you're going to be. So it's not like, oh, don't worry about it. If you can get to the party on Friday, you're fine. That's not what we're talking about. We do talk about 5-year plans and imagining yourself into the future. It's actually probably better to think of it that way and really imagine it well than to sort of try to plan something when you really don't have a lot of data.
Okay, so we're going to get back to that. I have a follow-up question for that. We'll get back to that in a minute.
We got a book you can read.
I'm going to get your book. I wanted to ask you about going back to this idea. So in your classes and in your book, you talk about, you call it a well-lived and joyous life.
Right.
And tonight we're here talking about living a meaningful and worthwhile life. Would you say that those are essentially the same concepts? Are they different? What is the difference, or can you compare and contrast the idea of a well-lived and joyous versus a meaningful life?
There's a concept we use in our classes we encourage people to live the coherent life. And by the coherent life, we mean a life where who you are, what you believe, and what you are doing are in alignment. That you can articulate what you believe, what your belief system is. You are aware of what role you're trying to play in the world. You're looking at what you're doing, and you're aware of your personality and identity. You can say, are these all in alignment? Am I being a consistent person? Now, whether or not, well-lived and even joyful or even meaningful, I remember one student in one of my small groups in class, we got to a discussion on meaning making, and she said, I'm a nihilist. I've finally worked long and hard to discover there is no such thing as meaning, and so I would like to skip the rest of this conversation. I said, fine, as long as you respectfully listen to the other students. Yeah, well, they're really kind of ticking me off because I'm sitting here going, that's so stupid, there is no meaning. So for her, living meaninglessly with authenticity was as meaningful as it could get, except of course for her it meant nothing.
As coherent
as she could be.
She was pretty happy.
So, because we're teachers, we are two people, in our role as teachers, our job is to help people get into alignment with the truth as they understand it.
And their truth as they understand it.
So what's meaningful to them is entirely up to their value system. We know a lot about two different kinds of things. How do you help people experience meaning? That's different than how do you help people define meaning. So we do not define meaning making in our Stanford class, because that's not our job. You define what is meaningful, then we can help you get your hands on that. Finding purpose in life is one thing, defining the purpose of life is quite another. So we define it individually differently, but we do not tell people the purpose of life. We try to help them get their hands on finding it.
But the other thing is the data. When we talked to all our students, they were like, "Well, I don't want to just take some crummy job. I want to do something that's purposeful and useful. I want to be useful in the world. I want my life to be meaningful, right? To have meaning." And so we went back to the positive psychology stuff, and we said, "Okay, well, what do psychology? When you live a healthy, joyful life, or you
thriving
live
life,
a thriving life, what are the elements that the psychologists have determined contribute to that?" And then we looked at them, because we're kind of data-driven guys. You can't just make stuff up. It's a university. You can't, you can't just make things up. This isn't politics. The work of Martin Seligman and Csikszentmihalyi and other psychologists who studied what makes people thrive, what makes them healthy, what makes their lives feel meaningful. It's having strong relationships, working on something bigger than yourself, having accomplishment, something that you can feel that you've accomplished and mastered. And so we've taken those ideas and we've just put them into the class and made them clear for students so they can be actionable. They can do something to discover, oh, well, this feels like it might be something that I would be good at and that I could understand in the world. The world would want it. Just because I want to do something doesn't mean the world wants to pay me to do it or to support me. And so we looked at that stuff. We boiled it down to some very. There's a thing in design about a bias to action. Like, let's just try stuff. So all of these things turn into little exercises that the students do, and they come back and they say, "Wow, that was really useful. That helped me sort out what I was thinking." So we don't say you should think this, but we say, "Try these things. It will help you figure out how to be the best version of you that you can be." Right? That's what we're trying to do.